Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. You're listening to ProjectME, the podcast with Tiffany Carter. Today I have on the current Miss California, Women of Achievement, founder of My Inner Critic, and Hollywood journalist Brittney Jarrett. I hope I said your last name correctly. I forgot to ask you if I said it right.
You absolutely did. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I did something professional today.
Beautiful.
Well, you have quite a resume, I must say.
Thank you.
Help me understand this whole Miss California Women of Achievement thing. So it sounds like you're taking your platform there and using it to share your purpose.
Absolutely. That's why I chose that pageant system. There are many different types of pageant systems, and they're similar in many ways. This one intrigued me because they are about that education and that platform, which was perfect because I had created the movement My Inner Critic 3 years ago, and I felt that it was absolutely perfect to discuss the realities of depression and anxiety and really pushing down that inner critic, those doubts and fears, and help people reach their greatest potential. This is exactly when it comes to the pageants, they're all about interviewing, all about speaking, all about community service. And so I saw it as an opportunity to really go out there and put myself out there and make the name known.
So this My Inner Critic, and you guys, all this stuff will be in show notes. It's Instagram at My Inner Critic, and I'm sure she's on every other platform. So I'll have all that in show notes. Tell us why you created that. Obviously, you have to have some personal experience with anxiety and depression for this to have come about.
Absolutely. I definitely had a very random childhood, and depression, anxiety definitely sank in early in my life. And it was especially noticeable in 2014. I was going through a lot of losses. I was severely grieving, and I was completely lost. And it got to the point of complete desperation of me just, falling down to my knees, just asking to have God step in and, for where my faith is. And I kind of saw myself outside of myself for the first time. I was able to really see what was going on. And I got intrigued to find a community of people and talk to doctors and therapists who are all about the subject, or who were struggling just like I was. And I realized that I wasn't alone. And that is the biggest thing, is that when it comes to your inner critic, you feel like it's you feel like you're all alone in that. And it's important to realize that that inner critic is lying to you, first of all. And second of all, that you are not alone, that so many people are struggling too, and that there are so many different resources that are available to help you. So I had to really build myself up. And I had gone through toxic friendships, relationships. I had gone through definitely just a lot of things that created that depression and anxiety. And it's a journey, it comes, it goes, and it's really on how you react to it. Are you going to feed into it? Are you going to take that inner critic and listen to it? Or are you going to decide that this is not reality, and that sometimes you need to realize that I need help? That's what got to the point for me. I called my insurance company because I was at that suicidal state, and I told them, you need to find me a therapist ASAP. And it was honestly the best decision I made in my life.
I can relate so much, and a lot of my fans and listeners have heard some of my story, but I had a heavy abuse in my childhood, sexual abuse. I was raped at 15. And, coming from those traumas, the anxiety and depression was real.
Yeah.
And I would say the biggest thing to this day that makes me feel less alone, that keeps me present from going off into inner critic land, would be that I don't feel alone in it anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really changes your perspective. It lets you be outside of your mind and brings that human connection that we really crave. Because when it comes to depression, we tend to isolate. And it's really easy to get sucked into that isolation and those negative thoughts. But once we find people that we can really talk to, it's a game changer.
With recent news, and I'm sure people have, asked you about this, given that we've had two, so to speak, high-profile suicides with Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain, both by hanging. And I say the reason why is, for some reason, that sounds even more desperate to me to go that way. But I think always are probably in a state of losing hope. What do you have to say about that? It's confusing a lot of people, because these are people who have the resources, they have access to the best of the best, they have money, they have family. What can you say about that?
I agree with you that I definitely question why hanging. And this happened when Robin Williams passed away in 2014. And honestly, that's when I realized that staying silent is deadly. And I still question, because I feel that to get to that kind of place and to have that kind of process actually happen, you have to be in a very dark place. And it's disheartening. It's really disheartening. When I heard about that news, I did my research. I heard that Kate Spade had a really hard time with worrying about her reputation if she were to seek treatment. That is something that I feel that people struggle with, especially with high status. And the most important thing for anybody to realize is that we are all human, and we all go through struggles, and we all go through hardships. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out to resources that are going to help guide you. It's vital to reach out to those resources. And honestly, people are going to be accepting. And those that aren't are not meant to be in your life. It's okay to not be okay sometimes. What's not okay is if you don't reach out to those people, because then you stay isolated and then you get more and more into that dark place. And yeah, I mean, hearing that she was fearful, it reminded me how much fear stops people from attaining their potential. Fear stops people from being able to reach out and talk. And that's what we need to acknowledge, is that fear is just trying to limit us. It's trying to stop us. And in some cases, it takes lives away.
Is that what motivated you to get raw and vulnerable and share your story? Because coming from someone, myself, who shares a lot of my story, that's a whole nother level of vulnerability to go there.
Absolutely. When Robin Williams passed away and I kind of had that epiphany of that staying silent is deadly, I had been surrounded around friends who, bless their souls, they just didn't understand what I was going through. But the problem was that I wasn't surrounded around people who understood. And so therefore, I didn't really talk about it, or I felt ashamed about it. But after Robin Williams passed away, he was such an influential person in my life, because I was, definitely in the acting realm, and I loved the way that he portrayed his characters and was just very raw and just so heartfelt. And so when he passed, it broke my heart. And I just got to the place of, there are people out there who need to hear this. There are people out there that feel like they're alone. And if I don't say my truth, then other people are not going to realize that reality that they're living is not a lonely place, that it doesn't have to be a lonely place, that it can be a reality where they can acknowledge that these thoughts are coming, that this depression is here through whatever reason, but that they can get out of it and they can move forward. And that is the biggest thing, is it's not just raising awareness about depression, anxiety. It's about motivating and helping people to get out of that mentality and really reach their potential. And that's what helps me grow. That's what helps me continue. That's what pushes me, because my mission is far greater than myself.
So with a lot of people I've found, is there's a lack of education around depression and anxiety. A lot of people think, well, I'm not depressed. If I was depressed, I would be bedridden and I wouldn't even shower and I wouldn't pay my bills. Or I don't think I have anxiety. I'm just stressed, because someone with anxiety is, walks around and is all frazzled and sweaty. So could you help people who are listening understand how there's definitely different ranges, so to speak, right, of depression and anxiety?
Absolutely. There are different levels of depression and anxiety. You can have very minimal and you can have extreme anxiety. In my case, during the day, I can have minimal anxiety and acknowledge it. The anxiety is still there. But then in other cases, it was extreme anxiety where you had apocalyptic visions, where you have that bedridden, you're tired, exhausted, don't want to get out of bed, you're afraid of a lot of things, you isolate and all that. There are definitely different degrees. I know that a book that helped me was called The Feeling Good by Dr. Burns. My therapist had actually given me a couple tests from it, and it kind of showed at what level the type of depression or what level that type of anxiety that I was struggling with and dealing with. And it kind of, the book itself, it talks about cognitive behavioral therapy. So that way you can learn to, in natural ways, find what the root causes are, what's going on. I highly recommend going through therapy, finding a psychologist first. To help evaluate if it's from trauma that had happened earlier on in your life, because there is a lot of things that happen during child development that are root causes for what causes that depression and anxiety later on in life. But there are also different things as far as, the way that our brain is and, lacking in certain ways. So it's so complex. It's so complex, and I always say that depression and anxiety can affect anybody. It doesn't matter what race, what religion, doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor. It can affect anybody. And honestly, depression, it does affect anybody who goes through the grieving process. It is part of that grieving process. So at some point in your life, you are more than likely to experience that depression. And it is important to realize that that's what it is. So that way you can move forward. Because that's what happened with me, is I was grieving and I didn't even realize it. So it took that therapy and a lot of, actually for me, it took me finding somebody else who was grieving, and I didn't know what to do. And I researched it. And then I realized on this website, it had 10 different reasons somebody might be grieving. And in 2014, I had 7 out of 10 of those things. So no wonder I was severely depressed and had extreme anxiety,
I see people piling on, as I call it. They're going through the grieving process. Maybe they lost a parent, a loved one, a friend. You can also grieve events that are going on, in our world. You can grieve someone you didn't know. You
Absolutely.
can grieve current events. You can also get anxiety and triggered by current events, political issues. But like she said, there's generally a root cause of why you're getting triggered by something. But I want listeners to know or have some tips of what they can do if they are feeling a lot of fear, they're anxious at work, or they really don't want to get out of bed really any day. They're forcing their way through life. What could you say? Where should they turn? If they're not maybe yet comfortable, like reaching out to a therapist, what suggestions do you maybe have that they could do?
When it comes to depression, I understand the feeling of not having that motivation to do much. And during that time, I definitely surrounded myself around things that made me laugh, even very morbid humor. Because for me, depression takes me to a very morbid humor type of mentality. So that is something that helps. I feel in those times when you feel that you don't have motivation to do much, it's a time of reflection. So you have your phone or you have your computer. If you even just type in certain groups on Facebook, because the most important thing is to find people that lift you up and find people that understand what's going on. And so for me, that's what really jump started was that I started an Instagram from my bed because I couldn't even get up until 4 p.m. I'd get up for a couple seconds to go brush my teeth or if I even wanted to do that. But I made an Instagram and I found people that were struggling like me. And I saw posts of people that were dealing with the same. And then I also, what really helped me to get out of that mentality, because if I understand the feeling of kind of getting stuck in that mentality, but at the same time, you have to fight your way into a positive mindset and you have to surround yourself around the way that you want to feel, not the way that you feel right now, not the way that you don't want to feel. Because if you focus on what you don't want to feel, you're going to continue to radiate that in your life. So it's important to acknowledge the things that you do want to feel. And that moment of reflection, those times of reflection, just research, make your mind curious. What can you change in your life? That depression is there because there's a lack of something going on. Something needs to change. Something needs to shift. So what can you provide in your life that will just bring even a little smile on your face or some laughter or whatever it may be? It's important to just find things that get you out of that mentality because it's really, really easy to get stuck and kind of spiral into that negative energy.
Absolutely. I mean, I have it pretty well managed now, but when I say well managed, I have an entire, so to speak, toolkit and a routine that I do to make sure that I keep that depression and anxiety managed. I exercise, I meditate, I journal, I share my feelings. I've cut any toxic person in my life out.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up journaling because journaling is a huge thing that I did. And it helped me so much to be able to begin that release of just you can write out how you feel, but then afterwards write out those affirmations. Remind yourself that you are worthy. Remind yourself that there is potential, that there is purpose in your life and that you will get there. I think that is vital. And I definitely did a lot of the same things as obviously talking about being vulnerable, about talking about it as well. But I understand for a lot of people that can be difficult to talk about it and be vulnerable. So one step at a time is definitely what I would say.
You have taken your pain and made it into a purpose. Are you planning on monetizing, meaning are you planning on generating money through My Inner Critic, through your brand?
Absolutely. And I'm in the beginning stages of that. I'm kind of playing with different ideas. I know for myself, I want to be a motivational speaker, coach, kind of like Tony Robbins. And my ultimate goal is to have a show like Ellen DeGeneres that is geared towards mental health because there are so many celebrities that are opening up like Kristen Bell. I'd love to interview her and get that going. So I guess money would generate through helping other people in that way. But what's important also with My Inner Critic is that I provide resources with having therapists available, with having information available. And so there's so much, my mind is going like crazy. My gears are turning. There's so much that I want to do and I don't want to limit My Inner Critic, because I feel like My Inner Critic, I mean, alone the name, everybody can relate to an inner critic. And there's so many ways that you can go with it. And I definitely plan on making it a business, but I definitely plan on making it as easy for people to get the information that they need. Because the point isn't just to make money. The point is to get people to a better place, to a better mindset, and able to reach their greatest potential.
And what's amazing to me, and what should give, hope to anyone who's listening or struggling, you started this platform from your bed because you couldn't spend much time outside of bed because of the debilitating fatigue from depression. And you started a movement that now has thousands of followers. And now you're on a podcast,
Yes, I know.
It's like you actually created, and I don't it's kind of weird saying the word business. It's not really a business. It's a brand. You created a brand while you're in the thick of depression.
Yes. It's what helped me get out of that depression. It was that spark. It was that knowing that there was more than what my mind led me to believe.
And they say, listen, you guys, you should see, I feel like I have the entire Barnes & Noble self-help section in my house because that's accumulated over many, many years. I laugh when I see it because it's like, yeah, I could really start a self-help bookstore.
Yeah.
But a lot of the books I've read from experts say one of the best ways to get out of, depression or anxiety is to help others. Take the focus off ourselves. Would you say that was part of what helped you with the inner critic?
It initially, yes. What I've come to realize through also going through the self-help and, personal development is that it's important to really focus on you. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And for me, there was a time during the beginning stages of My Inner Critic where I was just so desperate. There was so much that I had so much pain and I had so much things that were going on in my life that helping other people was fantastic. Of course, you always want to help other people, but it was also masking what was really going on inside of me. And I feel that happens to a lot of people who focus primarily on helping other people and not taking the time to work on themselves. They get tired and they get ran out and it eventually catches up. And so it's really vital to be able to take that time for yourself, to be able to find what you really want, how you can really help people. Because once you fill up your own cup of happiness, you'll be able to radiate so much more goodness and you'll be able to help people in so many more ways and you'll be able to relate to people and guide them much more efficiently when you are in a better place.
Listen, guys, the reason this is called ProjectME and my brand's called ProjectME is because one of my main missions is also to teach people that you have to come first. Above kids, above all of it. You have to have your own needs, your well-being, your health. All of that has to come first. If it doesn't, it's not sustainable. I've tried it. Believe me, I tried it for many years and I came crashing down in a ball of fury. It doesn't work. And, it's like they say on the airplane, you put your oxygen mask on first before you help others, even an infant.
Absolutely.
Because you'll pass out by trying to help others and you can't help anyone else.
Exactly. And that's true. And I heard that. And at first, to be honest, I was like, but I'm that person that I will help that other person first because I'm caring. And then now I'm just like, that makes sense. I am way more useful when I can actually provide more help because I have that oxygen in my lungs, because I am able to actually help other people. It's funny.
It is so funny that you say that. I did a post on it, or I shared on, someone interviewed me and I said the same thing. oh, but I'm different. I would hold my breath, and there's no way I could put it on myself first before someone else.
Yep.
Well, no wonder why I was so exhausted all the time and depleted.
Exactly. Yep.
I can laugh about it now, but I know a lot of people listening, especially a lot of moms. I mean, it is just, I get it. We're taught that that's being, a good person and loving and to put others before yourself. It's just not sustainable. And then you end up being kind of a bitter, resentful martyr in the end anyway, right?
Yeah, it catches up because you get exhausted and you get tired. And the thing is that you really can't rely on anybody else for your happiness. You really can't, because people will disappoint you if you put these high standards of what you expect people to react to and everything. You're putting all these expectations on other people that are just not, it's not the right way to go about it. You have to really find within yourself what you need to do to be fulfilled. And that can be hard, but it's important.
Who would you say are, I guess we could call the ideal people, or who would you say are the people, adjectives to describe them that would resonate or feel very welcomed by the My Inner Critic community?
What exactly do you mean by that?
I mean, like, is it only for people who are severely depressed, or is it for people who kind of feel lost in life? Like, who is that designed for?
This is designed for everybody. I would say that everybody deals with an inner critic, whether it's a very small voice or whether it's something that is very loud and takes control of your life. Regardless, there are those doubts, those fears, and those limitations that stop us from being able to push forward and reach our greatest potential. So my inner critic is to not only educate depression and anxiety and that inner critic, but it's also to really be able to help people to push doubts and limits aside and be able to reach that potential, be able to take those risks so they can attain much farther than they can even imagine. I mean, even the fact that I'm doing this podcast and that, over the years, my inner critic has turned to this. And I just know that, again, since the mission is so much greater than I am, I have no idea. It is limitless what my inner critic is going to become. And I want people to be able to have that same journey, because we all are deserving and we all are worthy of that abundance, and we're all worthy of attaining success.
And that, I found her not because, my coordinator or producer just like scoured, the Instagram. I found her already organically way before I started my podcast, for the very reason, when you go in different stages of your business or your life, that's often when that inner critic comes up.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to launch a podcast and really, really put out there, my story and getting vulnerable. And that inner critic was going like bananas.
Oh, it goes so loud. There's times where I post those videos and afterwards I'm like, oh my goodness, Brittney. Like I'm not afraid to just say what I needed to say. But that inner critic, man, it's quick. It's so quick to just shut you down. It's so quick to just doubt what you have put out. And I just remind myself, everything that conspires, it conspires for a reason. And the words that I say have meaning and purpose. And even if it's not initially what I intended to come across, especially when you do live videos, I know that somebody needed to hear it.
True. When people get that inner critic come up, like, who are you to get that promotion? Who do you think you are to ask for more money? Or, oh, you want to do that? You want to sell your, cupcakes everyone loves as a business, like they're not that good. That's your inner critic. Like, what is something that you've used, like a tool, when those thoughts pop up in your mind?
writing down what goals I have, what I would like accomplish. Sometimes people do vision boards, and that's very helpful. And I really I acknowledge the thought for what it is, because there's been many people who have doubted, who have said things like that. But the thing is that when you have that burning desire in your heart to really do something, you have that excitement, something makes you excited and you want to go for it, that is there for a reason. And other people are not going to be in the same mindset. They don't have that feeling. They don't have that urge, because that's not their journey. It's yours. And so that's what I remind myself, even when my own inner critic likes to doubt me with things that I've heard in the past, or, come back to my mentality, is that I remind myself that I am worthy of it. And that's something that I know a lot of people, when they go through severe depression, you feel helpless and you don't feel like you're worthy, especially if you've gone through gaslighting, which I'm sure you've heard of gaslighting. Yeah, it deteriorates your confidence, and that inner critic becomes super loud, and it takes a while. It takes some time. It's a journey. But when you can reassure yourself that you are on this journey for a reason, and that there are things in this world that are working for you and not everything is working against you, when you can focus on that part of yourself, the good things, the positive things, the things that you want to attain in this world, then those opportunities will rise in your life. It just takes time and it takes practice.
That was so well said. I feel like extremely calm right now after a long day. You have a calming effect.
Great. I love it.
You're like Zoloft as a person.
Thank you.
No, I'm not plugging a drug anybody. Calm down.
Oh, that's funny.
I do want to ask you, before we end the interview, you're a Hollywood journalist. You interview some really cool people for a relatively new cutting edge magazine. Would you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. So I'm the Hollywood journalist and creative director for Inspiring Lives magazine. And Dr. Shelley Hipsky started this magazine. It's rooted in Pittsburgh and it has expanded nationwide. You can find it in Barnes and Nobles. And I was so blessed to have been given that opportunity. They were expanding out in Los Angeles, and I have always wanted to be a journalist and write an interview. And I always had that in my heart, that that's something that I wanted to attain. And so when this opportunity came up, and the fact that it was Inspiring Lives, it was just a no-brainer. It was just like divine timing. And Dr. Shelley Hipsky is just absolutely phenomenal. And through that, I've interviewed Catherine Zinkina. She's CEO of Manifestation Babes. You would love her. Do you know her?
I'm obsessed with her.
Oh my gosh, yes. I would have to connect with. Have you connected with her?
No.
Okay, we're getting you connected. And then we had Lisa Harisha, and she's a celebrity life coach. She has the Imposter Model with her Soul Blazing, and that is absolutely amazing. I definitely recommend it. She has a show on Amazon right now, Soul Blazing with Lisa. And then Brianna Brown, you will see her on Dynasty. Her article is coming out in July. So we have our article coming out, Kat and Nat, who are a YouTube sensation. They are moms that talk about the crazy life of being moms. They are featured in our magazine. Lydia L., she's a rising star. I was the creative director on that shoot. She's going to be in there as well. And it's just growing. It's expanding. I mean, when you have such a mission to inspire lives and find women that are making a difference in the world, you rise together. And that's the biggest thing I want to say, is that when it comes to, especially with us women, is realizing that this life is not a competition, but it is a journey that we rise together. When we work together, we rise together, and we are unstoppable. When that happens, we are unstoppable, and we all deserve to work together and to inspire lives.
I couldn't agree more. I love seeing positive publications, given that, I'm a former NBC CBS, CNN broadcaster, the theory of, news stations and news outlets is if it bleeds, it leads. And no, I'm not kidding. That is really what is said in the news.
I believe it.
And so to hear that there are these beautiful, positive publications that are growing and making a national presence, it just shows people are craving that.
It's needed. It's so needed. We need more of it. We really do. And I highly recommend, checking the website at inspiringlivesmagazine.com and subscribing. So that way those issues can come straight to your door. But yeah, they are available at Barnes and Nobles. And it's just, the mission is just amazing. And the women are just phenomenal. And the team is just so inspiring. Dr. Shelley Hipsky, I thought I had a lot of energy in general with having ADHD, but Dr. Shelley Hipsky, she is just like on it. She's just go, go, go. And she is killing the game. So Inspiring Lives Magazine, just launched nationwide this year, but it is exploding. So you will definitely be hearing more and more of it here soon.
So happy that worked out for you and you got that perfect position considering what your calling is. You see, guys, it's like it does work like that. There's this beautiful divine timing that when we're in the middle of our shit, of being depressed, stressed, anxious, and we're in the middle of it, we can't see outside of that easily.
Yeah.
And we need communities and other people. That's why we can't do it alone, to help us see the bigger picture, because we're stuck in a fog. And to me, that's what communities and brands like My Inner Critic are there for. It helps you get outside of that doom and gloom cloud that can hang over us when we're going through stuff.
Right.
Well, I'm so excited that you came on. You are a breath of fresh air in general, but to the journalism world. And I'm honored to have had this time to speak with you. I just know we're going to work on things in the future. I can just feel it.
I love it. Bring it on. I love it. All the good vibes.
And I hope that you guys all got a lot out of this show. And if anything, just know that even in your deepest despair, there is something on the other side of that. And I will make sure that depression hotline, suicide hotline, all those numbers are going to be in the show notes as well. So you can have immediate access to any help at any level that you need. Thank you so much again, Brittney.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.